Welcome to Expose Cheaters by Details. If this is your first time visiting this channel, or you've already subscribed, you are welcome. Here, you'll discover gripping cheating stories, infidelity stories, marriage betrayal, relationship drama, shocking confessions, unfaithful spouses, hidden secrets, cheaters exposed, and consequences that nobody saw coming. Every story is designed to take you through deception, suspicion, betrayal, discovery, and the moment when the truth finally comes out. If you enjoy Reddit-style cheating stories, relationship betrayal stories, marriage drama, and shocking twists, you are in the right place. Subscribe to Expose Cheaters by Details and turn on notifications. The truth may stay hidden for a while, but eventually, every cheater gets exposed. Your time, trust, and your comments keep this community alive. As you listen, share your thoughts, feelings, and lessons below so we can learn together. Settle in. The truth and the twist are coming. Let's get into it. I wasn't looking for anything. That's the part nobody believes when I tell it now, but it's true. Amara had asked me to grab her phone charger from her purse before she left for work, and I dug through the bag the way I always did, past receipts and hand cream and a half-empty pack of gum. My fingers found the charger first. Then they found something else. A small foil sachet, torn at one corner. Next to it, a blister pack of pills I didn't recognize. 3 tablets already popped free of their casing. If you have already subscribed to this channel, Expose Cheaters by NDU Tale. Thank you. Your time, trust, and your comments keep this community alive. As you listen, share your thoughts, feelings, and lessons below so we can learn together. Settle in. Before I tell you what she said next, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because trust me, you'll not believe how this story ends. Comment, "I'm shook," if you've ever found something in your partner's bag you weren't ready for. I stood there in the kitchen, holding both things like evidence at a trial I hadn't agreed to attend. The charger cord dangled from my other hand. Forgotten. Amara was upstairs getting dressed, humming something off-key the way she did most mornings. And I remember thinking how strange it was that the house could sound so normal while my chest did something I didn't have a name for. I didn't call out. I just stood there, turning the sachet over between 2 fingers like it might explain itself if I looked at it long enough. It didn't. I put the charger on the counter and kept the other 2 things in my fist. When she came down the stairs, still fixing an earring, she saw my face before she saw my hand. Amara knew me well enough to read weather patterns off my expression, and whatever storm was building there, she clocked it immediately. She stopped on the 3rd step from the bottom. "What?" she said. Not a question exactly, more like a brace. I opened my hand. She looked at what I was holding for a long moment, longer than I expected. I'd imagined this moment 100 different ways in 4 minutes it took her to come downstairs. Imagine shouting. Imagine her crying. Imagine a name spilling out her that wasn't mine. But I hadn't imagined this. She just looked tired. Bone tired. The way she got after double shifts, except it was 7 in the morning and her shift hadn't started yet. "Where did you get these?" I asked. My voice came out flatter than I meant it to. "My purse, where you apparently went looking for a phone charger." "You know what I mean, Amara." She came down the last 3 steps slowly, one hand on the railing like she needed it. She reached out, and I actually pulled my hand back, which I'm not proud of. She noticed. Of course she noticed. "You think I'm cheating on you?" It wasn't a question either. I didn't answer right away because the honest answer was yes. Some ugly reflexive part of me had already convicted her before she'd said a single word in her defense, and I hated that part of myself even as it sat there refusing to leave. "I don't know what to think," I said, which was at least half true. She sat down at the kitchen table. Not dramatically. Just sat the way you sit when your legs have decided the conversation is going to take a while regardless of what your mouth wants. She put her face in her hands for a second, and when she looked back up, something in her had shifted. Not softer, steadier. "Sit down." I didn't want to sit down. I wanted an answer standing up, on my feet, ready to walk out the door if I needed to. But I sat anyway, because some part of me still trusted her more than I trusted the sick feeling in my stomach. "You remember Ngozi?" she said. I did. Her friend from the clinic. A woman I'd met maybe 3 times at gatherings. Always quiet, always watching the room like she was cataloging exits. I nodded. Her husband found her birth control 4 months ago. Same way you just found this. Went through her bag looking for something innocent and found something he decided wasn't. I didn't say anything. He broke her arm, Toby, in 2 places, because he decided a blister pack meant she was planning to cheat on him, that she was hiding herself from him somehow, and he needed her to know that wasn't allowed. The kitchen was very quiet. Somewhere outside a car alarm went off and stopped. She came to me because she didn't know where else to go. Her family sided with him, said a wife doesn't need birth control without her husband's permission, said she must have had a reason to hide it, and reasons like that are never good reasons in their eyes. I felt something cold settle low in my chest, a feeling that had nothing to do with suspicion anymore. I've been keeping a bag for her, Amara said. Sachets, because her husband checks receipts and won't let her buy her own. The pills, because I get them free through the outreach program at the clinic, and split them so it doesn't look like a full pack going missing from a house. I carry it in my purse because I see her twice a week, and I never know which day she'll finally decide it's time to leave him for good. Why didn't you tell me? Because you have a temper about things that don't concern you sometimes. And I needed this to stay small and quiet until she was ready. I needed one person who couldn't accidentally let it slip to the wrong friend, at the wrong barbecue, in front of the wrong cousin who knows her husband's cousin. That person could not be you today, apparently. That landed harder than shouting would have. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it more than I'd meant anything in a long time. You don't need to apologize to me. You need to sit with the fact that your first thought, when you found something you didn't understand, was that I'd betrayed you, not that I might be scared, not that I might be protecting someone. Betrayal was the first door your mind walked through. Wait, it gets even more intense. If you're not subscribed yet, do it now before I tell you what happened in Gozi. And drop a fire in the comments if you saw this twist coming. I wanted to argue. I didn't have anything to argue with. That's not. I started and then stopped because I didn't know how to finish the sentence honestly. She reached across the table and took the sachet and the pills back from where I'd set them down, gentle about it, like she was retrieving something fragile rather than something that had just detonated our morning. She tucked them back into her purse without looking at me. I love you, she said, but I need you to understand something. The women I sit with, the ones who come to clinic with bruises they call accidents, most of it started exactly like this. A man finding something he didn't expect and deciding suspicion was easier than a conversation. I thought about Ngozi's arm. 2 places, she'd said. I thought about how close I'd come, not to violence, God, never that, but to something smaller and still corrosive, to letting my face go cold, to letting the silence stretch into days, to punishing her with distance for a crime she hadn't committed. What happens to her? I asked. Ngozi. Amara's shoulders dropped slightly, some of the tension leaving them now that the worst of the conversation seemed past. She's saving money, slowly. 20 naira here, 50 there, whatever she can skim without him noticing. I'm helping her open an account he doesn't know about. It's not fast. It's not dramatic. It's just survival, one hidden note at a time. Can I help? She looked at me then, really looked, the way she used to look at me back when we were dating and she was still deciding whether I was worth the risk. Maybe, she said, not by knowing details, by being the kind of man she could eventually trust to be in a room with. That starts with not becoming the thing I just described to you 5 minutes ago. I nodded. It felt inadequate nodding, but it was what I had. I searched your bag for a charger and found a crime scene in my head. I said, I built a whole story in about 4 seconds. Another man, a hidden apartment, some version of you I don't recognize. All of it, in the time it takes to boil an egg. That's the part that scares me, she said quietly. Not that you found something you didn't understand, that your imagination went to the worst possible place so fast, and it felt true to you before I'd said a single word. I didn't have a defense for that. I still don't, if I'm honest. We sat there a while longer, the coffee going cold between us. The ordinary sound of the street outside, continuing on like nothing unusual had happened in this particular kitchen. Amara checked her watch eventually and stood, smoothing her skirt, back to the version of herself the world would see in 20 minutes. Competent, composed, a woman with somewhere to be. I have to go, she said. We'll talk more tonight. Okay. She paused at the door, keys already in hand. Toby. Yeah. Next time you find something in my purse you don't understand, ask me. Just ask. Before your face does the thing it did this morning. Before you build the whole story. I will. She left. I stood in the kitchen a long time after the door closed, replaying the 4 minutes it had taken her to come down those stairs, and how much damage I could have done in that window if I'd been a different kind of man, or even just a slightly angrier version of the one I already was. That evening she came home later than usual, and I didn't ask why, because I'd learned something that morning about the difference between asking and accusing. She smelled faintly of antiseptic, the way she sometimes did after a long day at the clinic, and there was a tightness around her eyes that told me the day had held something she wasn't ready to unpack yet. Good day? I asked, which felt safer than anything more specific. Long one, she said, and left it there, and I let her leave it there. We ate dinner mostly in silence, but it wasn't the bad kind. It was a kind where two people are quietly recalibrating how they see each other, testing the new shape of things without saying so out loud. She caught me watching her once and gave me a small, tired smile that told me we were going to be okay, eventually, even if tonight wasn't the night for saying so directly. 3 weeks later, Ngozi left her husband. I only know the outline of it. Amara kept most of the details to herself, and I didn't push, because pushing wasn't my place anymore in this particular story. What I know is that it happened on a Tuesday, that a bag had been packed in advance and hidden at Amara's office, that a car showed up at a time when the husband was known to be elsewhere, and that it went off without anyone getting hurt, which Amara told me later was not something she'd taken for granted going in. She's staying with her sister for now. Amara said one night, months after the morning with the charger, in another state, new number. Everything is new. Is she okay? She's scared. But she's free scared, not trap scared. There's a difference. I thought about that phrase for a long time afterward. Free scared versus trap scared. I thought about how close I'd come to being one more source of trap scared in my own wife's life, over something as small as a foil sachet and a blister pack of pills I hadn't bothered to ask about before deciding I already knew the answer. I still think about that morning more than I'd like to admit. Not with shame exactly. Amara made her peace with it faster than I made mine, but with a kind of permanent alertness, like a smoke alarm that got triggered once by burnt toast and now beeps a little too readily at everything. I check myself now. When something confuses me, I've trained myself to notice the story my mind wants to tell before I've asked a single question, and to distrust that story on principle. Amara still keeps a bag in her purse. Different woman now. Different name I've never asked for. I don't look through her bag for chargers anymore. I ask her to hand me what I need, and she does without hesitation, because somewhere in the last year we rebuilt something that had cracked without either of us fully admitting how close it had come to breaking. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd reacted differently that morning, if I'd let the silence win instead of the question, if I decided, in the 4 minutes it took her to walk down those stairs, that I already had my verdict and didn't need her testimony. I don't like where that version of the story goes. I don't like how easily I could have become a chapter in someone else's cautionary tale instead of a footnote in someone else's rescue. Ngozi sent Amara a photograph a few months back. A small apartment, sparse but clean, a plant on the windowsill that looked like it was being kept alive on purpose. Amara showed it to me without a word, just held her phone out, and I looked at that plant for a long time before handing it back. She's doing okay, I said. She's doing more than okay, Amara said. She's doing new things. I think about that word sometimes. New. Not fixed. Not healed exactly. Not wrapped up neatly the way stories are supposed to end. Just new. A woman starting over in a city where nobody knows the shape of the fear she used to carry. Watering a plant on a windowsill because she can. Because nobody's counting the water bill against her. Because for the first time in longer than she can probably measure, the small, ordinary things belong entirely to her. My wife still won't tell me everything. There are parts of what she does that stay behind a wall I've learned not to knock on, not because I'm not curious, but because I understand now that some walls exist for good reason. I used to think a marriage meant knowing everything about the other person. I think differently now. I think it means trusting what you don't know, instead of filling the gaps with the worst version of the story available, the charger, for what it's worth, still lives in that same purse. I see it sometimes when she asks me to grab her keys or her phone. I don't reach past it looking for anything else anymore. Some things I've learned are none of my business, and marriage is stronger for things I've stopped asking about. Not because I stopped caring, but because I finally understood the difference between curiosity and control. She asked me once, not long after Ngozi left her husband, whether I regretted that morning, the charger, the sachet, the 4 minutes of silence while she walked down the stairs deciding how much of the truth I'd earned. No, I said, I regret what almost happened in my head before you got down here, not finding out, the 4 minutes. She nodded like that was the right answer, or at least an honest one, and reached over and took my hand across the table, and we sat there for a while not saying anything else. Because some conversations don't need a neat ending to mean something. They just need both people still sitting at the same table when the silence finally settles. If this story hit you the way it hit me writing it, smash that like button. Subscribe for more real-life stories like this every week, and tell me below, would you have reacted like Toby did? Let's talk about it in the comments.